The midterms, you decide 2014 continues.
You are deciding as well. Welcome back in, everybody. Ed Berliner along with J.D. Hayworth and the entire team. Let's go ahead and look at some numbers that are coming in right now on 4 races. And the last one we're going to talk about, the numbers will seem pretty big, but in actuality, we still have a long way to go. Let's go ahead and start it right now and look at the race in Kentucky, where Mitch McConnell has come away with a big win over Allison Grimes in the Senate race there. 13% the margin. Move on to New Hampshire, what we're watching right now. In the Senate race, Jeanne Shaheen just about 10 minutes ago has been declared the winner in that race, a big thumping of Scott Brown. Move on next to West Virginia and the race there in the Senate. Shelley Moore Capito now with a 62%. That has already been decided. She defeats Natalie Tennant. Here's the number, though. Don't be shocked by it just yet because we got a long way to go in the night. There's only about 3% of the precincts coming in right now in Wisconsin. Scott Walker is holding on to a 70 to 30 edge over Mary Burke. Really, everybody, hang tight and don't get too excited. That's going to change.
You got to remember Milwaukee and Madison, the M&M factor in Wisconsin. You're probably getting early rural votes going heavily for the incumbent Republican governor, but there is a long way to go in Wisconsin, and that's another example of very early turnout, not establishing a trend that I would imagine to remain constant as the evening wears on.
All right, now let's go ahead and talk about some of the numbers here and some of the trends and what we've seen in these races and others. Let's once again go live to our political strategist, Dick Morris. He's in Philadelphia watching all the numbers. Dick, I'm sure you'll share all our discussions here as well. 70-30, let's all just take a break. We got a ways to go in Wisconsin.
I don't want to be like Karl Rove in challenging the call. But I'm not so sure I would call New Hampshire. Certainly on not the strength of the published numbers. 38% of the vote in, down by 4. That seems premature. Maybe the exit polls are showing a geographic distribution that I'm not seeing. North Carolina is clearly closing. There's now 62% of the vote in, and Tillis is behind by only 2. With 58% of the vote in, he was down by 3. And with 43% of the vote in, he was down by 7. So that's closing very nicely. On the other hand, Virginia is not closing nicely for the Republicans, with 84%, and Gillespie is down to a 1-point lead. So that one may slip away. Kansas, which is a real danger here, with 20% of the vote in, Orman, the independent, is ahead by 1. So when you put it together, I think we have a pretty good shot right now at North Carolina. New Hampshire, I don't understand the call, and let's watch the numbers. Probably less of a shot than we had before in Virginia. That would seem to be on pace, except for New Hampshire, for 10 seats. If we lose New Hampshire, it'll be 9, and if we lose Kansas, it'll be 8. But we're somewhere in that ballpark here.
Dick, you are remarkable in American political history because you consulted both the late, great Jesse Helms and former President Bill Clinton on both sides of the aisle.
Well, in North Carolina, I worked for Hunt and Helms.
Now that is
opposite candidates, 4 years apart.
So obviously you know North Carolina. I want to go back to your memories of how the vote would come in. Are we still waiting for those counties in the eastern part of the state, down east as we call it, on down toward Wilmington to come in? And is that what gives you hope? Where will the last counties come in?
I just don't know at this point. But the one thing you can check, which is probably the most important, is you look at the trend. You look at, are you gaining or losing as additional votes are being counted? And when 43% of the vote was counted, Hagan was ahead by 7. When 49% was counted, she was ahead by 6. When 53% was counted, she was ahead by 4. When 56% was counted, she was ahead by 3. When 58% was counted, she was ahead by 3. Now 62 is counted, she's ahead by 2. That's all trending in a negative direction for her. And with Gillespie, it's the other way around. But let's sit tight. And on New Hampshire, I don't buy it. Let's see what's going on. New Hampshire is a pretty homogeneous state. It's not that easy to say that it's a tiny state. And except for the really rural north, Nashua, Concord, Manchester, more or less the same kind of thing. So we'll see where those votes are coming from in the state. I would not write it off yet.
All
the other
right.
thing I want to mention is Colorado is coming in nicely. 20% of the vote right now, and Gardner is up by 4.
All right, Dick, thanks so much. We'll check with you as the night goes on. Quickly, before we get out of here, just some numbers, and Dick has been talking about them as well. Let's look at what ABC News is projecting right now. In North Carolina, they're giving Hagan 49 to 48% over Tillis at this point, with about 68% of the vote being counted. In Kansas, they're calling Roberts and Orman 48%, a dead heat at this point, with about 23%, and the governor's race in Florida also updating there as well. It has started to tighten just a little bit with some of the more populated areas coming in. Scott 48%, Christ 47%, with about 96 or 97% that's in on the vote.
If these trends continue, whether it's the Florida governorship or the other races you outlined, the R word might come into play. Recounts. It'll be worth exploring those possibilities as the evening continues. Of course, the initial count is what we're involved in right now.
Oh, yeah. No. Recounts are there, brother. Trust me. We're going to be talking about this maybe until January. What's your take on the races? Hashtag YouDecide2014. Tweet us. We'll talk about it here as well. This is Newsmax covering the midterms.
The midterms, You Decide 2014, will be back in just a moment.